Oyo was not always ruled by two kings. There was a time when the throne belonged to one, and one of the two who sit there now was never meant to. The palace courtyard was already awake. Elders sat in a wide semicircle beneath the canopy, staffs resting against their shoulders. Guards stood at attention. The morning air was calm, carrying the low murmur of voices and the distant sound of drums from the town beyond the walls. At the center of it all stood two thrones, side by side. Two kings sat upon them, dressed in equal regalia, their crowns catching the light in the same way. When one spoke, the other listened. When one rose, the other rose with him. The people bowed as one. This was the only way Damilola had ever known Oyo. She sat on a low stool beside her grandmother, her legs swinging idly as she watched the gathering. Her eyes moved from one king to the other, then back again. Her brow furrowed. She leaned closer. "Grandmother," she whispered carefully, "why does our kingdom have two kings?" The old woman did not answer immediately. She followed the child's gaze to the thrones. For a moment, her face tightened, not with anger, but with something older, heavier, memory settling where words had not yet formed. "Because," she said slowly, "Oyo once tried to rule with one." Damilola turned fully toward her. What happened? The old woman exhaled. It was long and measured, as though she had been holding that breath for many years. She pulled the child closer and rested a hand on her shoulder. "Listen," she said, "I will tell you how it began." Her eyes lifted once more towards the palace. "Long before you were born, Oyo had known peace for a long time. Not the kind born of fear, but the kind that settles when things are done properly. The markets opened each morning without dispute. Farmers worked their land without looking over their shoulders. Disagreements were taken to the palace and returned settled. King Adewale ruled with restraint. He was not loud. He did not rule by force. When matters were brought before him, he listened. He asked questions. He decided carefully. His word was trusted because it was consistent. The elders stood firmly behind him. The people respected him. There was only one problem. Oyo had no heir. Queen Adesua had been in the palace for years. In the beginning, the absence of a child was treated with patience. Time was given. Rituals were performed. Hope renewed itself quietly with every passing season. But the seasons kept passing. Whispers began to move through the palace corridors. Never loud, never direct. Just enough to be heard, and never enough to be challenged. The elders did not accuse the queen. They spoke instead of tradition, of continuity, of what happens when bloodlines break and ambition fills the gap. One evening, after such a council, King Adewale spoke.
His voice was calm, deliberate. "We have waited," he said. "The kingdom cannot wait forever." Queen Adesua sat still, back straight, hands folded neatly in her lap. "There are others," he continued, "men who would lay claim if I fall without a son." Silence. "It may be time," he said carefully, "to consider another wife." The words were not spoken in anger. They were not meant to wound, but they landed heavily all the same. Another wife meant another future, one that did not include her. That night, Queen Adesua lay awake long after the palace had gone quiet. Her mind replayed every look, every whisper, every unspoken judgment. She had built her life around this place, this marriage, this crown. Now she imagined watching another woman bear what she could not. Her chest tightened. Days later, she went to the chief priest of Oyo, openly, as tradition demanded. She knelt before him. She asked if there was anything that could be done, any sacrifice, any rite. The priest listened without interruption. Then he shook his head. "It is not in your destiny to bear children," he said plainly. "What was not written cannot be forced." She pressed her palms against the earth. "There must be something." "There is not," he replied. "And those who try to force fate invite destruction." His refusal was final. Queen Adesua left the shrine with her head held high. But fear settled into her chest the moment she stepped away. Doing nothing now felt like surrender. Waiting felt like disappearance. That was when her mother spoke. "There are men," she said quietly one night, "who do not answer to the shrine you know." Queen Adesua turned sharply. "Such men bring trouble." "So does being replaced," her mother retorted. Something shifted in Queen Adesua. A line was crossed. She would not fade quietly. She would not lose her place. She would not be remembered as the queen who failed. If destiny had closed its door to her, she would find another way in, even if it demanded a price she could not yet see. The shrine was quiet when Queen Adesua arrived. Not silent, still, the kind of stillness that made every movement feel judged. The chief priest sat before the cowries, eyes closed, listening to something beyond the room. He did not ask why she had come. He already knew. When he opened his eyes, he cast the cowries gently onto the mat. They scattered, some face up, some face down. He studied them, gathered them, cast them again. Queen Adeswa sat upright, hands clenched in her lap. After the third casting, the priest spoke. You will conceive. Her breath caught, but not one child. She lifted her head slowly. Twins, 2 sons. Relief rose in her chest, briefly. One will carry light, he continued. The other will carry darkness. The air shifted. The one of light will bring peace, order, growth. The one of darkness will bring conflict, change, disruption. Disruption? She whispered. Not evil, the priest corrected. Darkness is not evil. It is force. It unsettles what stands too long. It clears the old so the new can rise. Unsettles what stands too long. The words echoed in her mind. What stood too long? A throne? A king? A queen? He separated the cowries into 2 equal groups. They are bound together, he said. They must rule as one. She leaned forward. And if they are separated? The priest paused. If they are divided, he said slowly, the land will not find balance. Prosperity will come and go. Peace will not remain. The kingdom will struggle, even in its abundance. Silence filled the shrine. They will bear marks, he added. One, the mark of the sun. The other, the mark of the half moon. You will know who is who. Queen Adeswa nodded. You must not separate them, the priest said firmly. Light without darkness becomes tyranny. Darkness without light becomes chaos. She bowed her head. I understand. And she left. She returned to the palace before nightfall. Her mother was waiting. The Queen Mother listened in silence as Adeswa repeated every word. The twins, the light, the darkness, the warning. When she finished, the room remained still. Then her mother laughed, softly. 2 kings, she said. Has that ever happened in Oyo? Adeswa hesitated. The priest said they must rule as one. The priest speaks for the gods, her mother replied calmly. But we answer to men. She rose and walked slowly across the room. You know our elders, she continued. They guard tradition more fiercely than they guard truth. Adeswa said nothing. There has never been a time when 2 kings sat on one throne, her mother said. 2 crowns invite factions. Factions invite blood. The thought struck her sharply. If 2 sons remained, the elders would demand a choice, and choice would divide the kingdom. What if the one of darkness rules? Her mother asked. Will you wait to see what he destroys? The priest said darkness is not evil, Adesua replied, though her voice lacked conviction. And if he is wrong, her mother pressed. And if disruption means your husband falls, and if clearing the old means clearing you. The words tightened around her chest. Disruption was not evil, but it was dangerous, and power does not survive danger. We will choose the safer path, her mother said quietly. Adesua's hands trembled. The one of light will stay. Adesua's heart skipped a beat. The one of darkness must go. Go where? Adesua asked faintly. Anywhere but here. Silence stretched between them. 2 sons, 1 throne, 1 tradition that did not bend. The prophecy had offered balance, but balance demanded faith. And Adesua had already learned what faith cost a woman in this palace. She would not gamble her future on destruction, even if it meant defying destiny. And just like that, the decision was made. Days passed. The palace returned to its rhythm. Councils were held. Petitions were heard. Drums echoed at dawn and faded at dusk. Outwardly, nothing had changed. But inside Olori Adesua, everything had. She began to wake before sunrise, not from noise, from awareness, a quiet certainty growing beneath her ribs. She counted the days. She said nothing. Hope was dangerous when spoken too soon. On the 4th morning, she felt it. Not pain, not sickness. Something steadier, heavier, alive. She waited 3 days before sending for the healer. If she was wrong, she would bury it quietly. If she was right, then destiny had begun. The healer examined her in silence, measured her pulse, watched her breath, then bowed low. Your Majesty, she said softly, you are with child. Adesua did not smile, not immediately. She closed her eyes first. Relief moved through her slowly. Not joy, relief. She dismissed the healer and sent for Kabiyesi. When the king arrived, she spoke carefully. The gods have remembered Oyo. For a moment, he did not understand. Then he did. The sound that left him was not royal. It was human. Years of pressure breaking in one breath. He took her hands. He called for celebration. By nightfall, fires burned in the courtyard. Palm wine flowed. Drums thundered against the palace walls. Oyo rejoiced. The kingdom believed its future had been secured. Only Adesua stood still in the middle of the joy, because she felt it already. 2 movements, not echoes. 2 distinct rhythms. The prophecy had not spoken in riddles. What had been forced into destiny would arrive exactly as declared. Light and darkness, bound together, meant to rule as one. But a decision had already been made. She placed a hand against her stomach. 2 sons were coming. Only one would remain. The labor pains had not yet begun, but fate had already entered the palace, and Oyo did not yet know what it had set in motion.